Renegade Conversations. My name is Meryl Cook. I'm an artist, a renegade, and the host and creator of Renegade Conversations. My mission is to provide thought-provoking, fearless, and fun discussions with remarkable female rebels who are shaking things up in their respective fields. My hope is to make you question the norms and ignite your own renegade spirit. This episode of Renegade Conversations is sponsored by the IWK Foundation. The IWK Foundation is a public, not-for-profit organization that raises funds to support the urgent priority needs of the IWK Health in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The IWK Foundation is the preeminent fundraising movement for children and women's healthcare in the Maritimes. We are powered by a legacy of best in-class care, diversity, and inclusion, and the personal connections our donors have to the IWK and the region it calls home. My next guest is Juanita Peters, and I'll read to you a little bit from her bio. Juanita Peters is known by many people as many things. She's an actor, film and stage director, and playwright. As a film writer and director, she has given us I Made a Vow, Hannah's Story, Africville Can't Stop Now, and 837 Rebirth, which has won multiple awards in Canada, New York, London, and Paris. Juanita Peters directed 2 seasons of Film Nova Scotia award-winning dramatic series called Studio Black and the multi-award-winning television series Diggstown. As a playwright, she has given us The Sand Family, The Mother Club, I Am Possible, and The Green Book. She is a founding member of Women in Film and Television in Atlantic and founding member of Atlantic Canada's newest multicultural festival, Nova Multifest. She's a member of Playwrights Atlantic Resource Centre, Canadian Actors Equity ACTRA, and the Directors Guild of Canada. She's a board member of the Robert Pope Foundation, Matchstick Theatre, and Women in the Director's Chair National. Juanita was named the 2023 Portia White Prize winner by Creative Arts Nova Scotia, which is a very significant award, and the 2022 Woman of the Year by the union representing 28,000 professional actors across the country, ACTRA. In addition to this, Juanita Peters is the executive director of the Africville Museum. More than a memorial, the Africville Museum and its exhibits invite the visitor to experience life out home in Africville and to recognize the courage that transcends racism and hatred to begin the journey to reconciliation. So welcome, Juanita. I can hardly wait to have this conversation with you. I must admit to developing a bit of a fan crush on you when I realized—
Oh my gosh.
that you were the director of Diggstown. I loved that series, and I was so sad when it ended. It was like everything I loved about it. It was my local Dartmouth scene. It had the names of people I knew, like their family names, and you really went a long way to making it very authentic and very much feeling like a Dartmouth, Nova Scotia piece. It was wonderful.
And thank you. I must say, I was one of many very, very, very talented directors and an extremely talented team. And the creator, of course, Floyd Kane, who is the real star of that show as the creator, producer, and somebody who, again, deep rooted, in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, who understands the issues that people face from marginalized communities, and was able to put it in a television series that spoke to those things and spoke about it in a way that was moving, palatable, and yet, in a lot of cases, move people to action on some things. So just a tremendous series, tremendous crew, cast, and creators.
It really was. And I think, even though it was a local production and it was about our town, it had wide appeal. I think that it could
Yes.
apply to any smallish city in Canada, right?
I think it applied to any city, period.
Uh-huh.
And that's why it was BET was very interested in it,
Mhm.
because those scenarios that were created are
Mhm.
happening all over,
Yes.
in different ways. They might
Yeah.
look a little different.
Mhm.
When we talk about the migrant workers,
Mhm.
we talk about, birth alerts.
Yeah.
We talk about, that series talked about so many things that people could identify with, um, universally.
I agree. I agree. And I loved it. Any
Yeah.
chance of it
Yeah.
coming back? Is it completely
I
done?
don't know.
Uh-huh.
I know that right now, the creator, Floyd Kane, has ended the series.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking forward to see what he comes up with next,
Yeah.
because Floyd doesn't waste his time
Uh-huh.
on things that
That's
are not
wonderful.
important. So
Oh, wonderful.
I'm very excited, and
Yeah.
to see what's the next thing that he invests in.
Oh, that's excellent. Great. So thank you so much, Juanita, for agreeing to hop on Zoom with me. I know you're a super, super busy person these days, so thank you so much.
My
Um,
pleasure.
my first question for you is, what does being a renegade mean to you?
I really don't know.
Mhm.
I love the title of this show,
Uh-huh.
because when you say renegade, I feel like it means people that are working, beyond the barriers or outside the lines, and people that
Mhm.
are just finding ways to move forward.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what it says to me. And I
Mhm.
know so many people like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of just being fluid in life and saying,
Mhm.
this door has closed, but
Mhm.
this one is open. Here's a little path I can go around and see what's
Yeah.
over there. Not being afraid, not
Uh-huh.
being afraid to take
Yeah.
chances, and knowing that, if you fall down, it's okay. We got legs. We can get back up,
Yeah,
and it'll
exactly.
look different. I think, the don't have an ego,
Mhm.
because if you have an ego, that's what actually harms you more when you fall down.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just always assume, you know what? Um, Lots of other people have tried things as well and have
Mhm.
failed along the way. And then
Yeah,
along the way, you succeed too. So
exactly.
you have to, accept each, uh, with, a grain of salt,
Uh-huh.
and just keep
Yeah.
moving and developing yourself, developing your environment. Yeah,
Yeah, cool. And have you always been a renegade?
always. Always,
Yeah, never
to
conviction.
uh I look back at, when I was 14, 15 years old,
Mhm.
and I was always doing things that were probably, I was never a bad kid, but I
Mhm.
was always doing things that other people may not have understood.
Mhm. Mhm.
I can remember being so bored in grade 10, that I would go and leave and go to the downtown library and sit there, or,
Uh-huh.
there was, yeah. And I had to find a reason to
Mhm.
be in the school full time. And
Right.
when I went back and created a drama team.
Uh-huh.
And
Awesome.
in order to run that drama club, my marks had to be, of course, at a certain level. So now
That was your motivation. Yeah, yeah.
that was my motivation now,
Uh-huh.
because I love
Awesome.
the drama group so much.
Mm.
I was doing it within community, then I did it at
Mhm.
school.
Nice.
I wanted to be involved in political conversations in school. We didn't know that's what they were at the time.
Right,
We
right.
thought it was really about letting the school board and the adult bodies
Mhm.
understand what was important to us. And I
Uh-huh.
can remember some of my classmates thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to get kicked out of school. Oh my gosh, like, we're
Yeah.
going to get in trouble. We're not going to be able to
Uh-huh.
graduate. And I looked at it as, it's just a conversation,
Yes, yes. Good
right?
for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure that you inspired many of your fellow students when you did that, and maybe some of the teachers, right? So my next question is, what impact has being a renegade had on your life or your career? Maybe some opportunities or challenges as it presented?
I think one of the things is you may have heard, the saying when people say, so and so doesn't know their place.
Mm-hmm.
I've never ever pigeonholed myself
Mm-hmm.
as being this or that.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
know I love story. I know I love people.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I gravitate towards: a great story, a person who's a good storyteller, a person who has a life and may not even know what a
Mm-hmm.
great story they have, right? Um, I've never ever thought of myself as being an A, B, C, D, E. I just went where the opportunity was
Mm-hmm.
to further that skill, that talent, that muscle,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's
Yeah.
as a writer, whether it's as an
Yeah.
actor. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I get better at this? And
Mm-hmm.
just watching, I remember I only learned to swim as an adult recently, but the
Oh,
first
good
thing I
for
did was
you.
watch new swimmers. I watched new
Uh-huh.
swimmers. I watched children and I go, okay, how are they doing that?
Oh, that's
Right?
awesome.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's you have to try to relearn, to forget those fears that you've developed over the
Mm-hmm.
last how many years.
Yeah.
But you watch people who are learning new, who are new learners, young learners, and
Mm-hmm.
say, what are the tips that they are using to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish that? And
Oh,
make it simple. Make it
awesome.
simple, Meryl.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my
Mm-hmm.
lifetime, is that often whenever I would challenge myself to do something,
Mm-hmm.
the people who were in that sphere often made it sound so complicated and so hard. And so
Yeah.
I'd say, okay, well, I'm just going to do boom, right? I'm just going to
Yes.
do a little something, right?
Uh-huh.
And the more you get in there, you start to learn how many things you've already know but didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that
Mm-hmm.
they were you could access them for that purpose, right?
Yes, yes. So it sounds like being a renegade has given you some courage to try things that maybe other people thought were too complicated or too difficult. And you had the courage to just take one step at a time.
I've never actually feared things the way that other people do.
Mhm.
And what one of the things that holds a lot of people back is because they're always afraid of looking silly or
Yes,
looking
yeah,
stupid, or
yeah.
and I've never really ever had those fears,
Mm.
because I think, well, if I don't get it on the first try, I'll go back and figure it out. And if
Uh-huh.
I don't figure it out in the amount of time that makes me feel satisfied, I just move on to something else.
That's awesome. Oh, that sounds great. So it's given you flexibility as well.
I
That sort
think
of
so.
renegade
I think
spirit.
so.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, lovely, lovely. How have things changed? I know that when you started out in media, for example, things were a certain way, and things have changed a lot. So can you talk about that a little
Whew,
bit?
wow. Have they ever?
Yeah.
I started out in radio when I was 18, 19 years old.
Mm.
And at the time, I can remember I was the afternoon um, drive home newscaster. She was the on-air person for afternoon.
Okay.
Her name's Carol McNeil. She now
Yeah.
still works for CBC News World.
Nice.
And I can remember in a meeting, the manager saying they didn't want us talking to each other. We
Mm.
couldn't, I could say, Carol, so, it's been quite a day, but we
Yeah.
weren't allowed to banter to each other. They said, because it was unnatural to hear two women's voices back to back.
Oh my
So
God.
Carol would have to hit a commercial and say, coming up next, the 6 o'clock news brought to you by Juanita Peters. The commercial would play, and then I would say, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Juanita Peters. Here's the news. We were not allowed to talk to each other.
Oh my
Um, and I can remember later, when I became a news anchor,
God.
um, there couldn't be, if one of the news anchors, which often was two males, one of the
Mhm.
males was sick or whatever, I could sit there and take their place.
Mhm.
But if it was only me and the weather person, which was often a girl, we couldn't
Mhm.
have two women on the set.
Oh my
One of the other things I think I mentioned that I realized is my co-anchor often sat on a pillow, and I thought there was a medical reason why they did
God.
that.
Yeah.
The reality was that the male couldn't look shorter than the female.
Oh my God.
All these silly, silly things and
Yeah.
people's ideas of what was acceptable, what was normal,
Yeah.
you know, unbelievable. And of course, we watch, you know, everything, you know, lots of things today where it's all women and women in every seat. I know, you know, in a lot of boardrooms in media, television and radio, whatever, it's often the CEOs are often women, and we may have one male around the
Mhm.
table, which used to flip, you know, you flip that around, there would have been,
Exactly.
you know, certainly one woman,
Yeah.
let alone, you know, one woman of color
Uh-huh.
or from an underrepresented community. And today it looks so different. It's so
Mhm.
exciting, so exciting.
And so what impact is that having, these changes, do you
Well,
think?
you know, I think that um, it has a lot of impact. You know, number one, in terms of how people view opportunities, how people view you and your skills and what you bring to the table.
Mhm.
We know that there are more women getting real jobs at
Mhm.
the real price,
Right.
right? A real salary to do
Yeah.
that job.
Nice.
And also, you know, it bleeds into everything. It's not just in my industry. If you
Mhm.
look in the courtrooms, we have more female judges. We have
Yeah.
more representation among those females of
Mhm.
underrepresented communities. We have more female judges, and again,
Mhm.
more representation. So that changes how policy is made,
Mhm.
how inequities are viewed. Um, it is extraordinary and absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. It's a wonderful stage to be at, isn't it? I mean, I know there are still
It is.
improvements that need to be made, but yeah. So this is a kind of a funny question,
We
but
still have a long ways to go.
we do, absolutely we do. Yes. So Juanita, in grade two, what kind of a kid were you? What was your nature like?
I was a dreamer. I've been a dreamer since day one. I was a storyteller even in grade two and three.
Mhm.
It wasn't that long ago. I was maybe 15 years ago. I was doing a renovation on my mom's home, and I found um, a report that I had done in grade four, and it was a report on a ghost in the house, a story. And it was based on, I grew up in Toronto till I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
But every summer we came to Nova Scotia
Yeah.
to my mother's and my grandparents, my great grandparents' village, Weymouth Falls.
Oh,
And
nice.
there
Nice.
were often houses that were closed up
Yeah.
because the people lived elsewhere and those people would
Yeah.
come home for the summer. And I can remember looking at these houses and just imagining what might be going on in them while the people were away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I've always been, you know, a dreamer. I've always been somebody who I not too long ago, you know, in the last decade, a woman said to me, Juanita, aren't you ever afraid that somebody's not going to like your work? And I
Mhm.
said, no, I expect that there's going to be people who aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
I can't, you know, there are things that I think are fantastic and other people don't like them at all.
Yeah.
I don't take issue with that because
Uh-huh.
I don't write it for that reason. I write
Mhm.
things, I create things because I love them so much.
Yeah.
And occasionally other people do too.
I
So
think that's
it's a
the true
win-win.
artist, right? I think as an artist, you can't create for others. I can't anyway.
I
When I
can't
have a
either.
piece that I think, oh, somebody might like this, it's
Yeah.
not coming from my heart. And so it
Yeah.
doesn't resonate in the same way with other people. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I don't develop or get attached to something because other people say we're going to invest in it. I'm going to do it
Mhm.
anyway. 90%
Right.
of the things I do, nobody has ever invested in. I got a whole drawer full of of products that
Nice.
nobody's ever, you know, invested in. But while I'm doing it, I love it. And I
Yes.
say, you know, I play a little guitar. It's not great, but I enjoy it when I do it. And occasionally maybe somebody else does too, but I don't do it
Nice,
for that. I do it
nice,
because
nice.
it makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh, lovely, lovely. Good, good. Thank you. Um, Now this is a very unusual question, Juanita, and just take your time to think about it. It's a question that I often use in my workshops when I'm trying to get people unblocked or opening up their creativity. And the question is there a line or a shape that would define you? And if so, what would it look like?
I think for me, it is a line. It's not a shape. It's a line.
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
line always moving forward, always growing. You know, my line is always willing to just sort of go wherever it can and wherever it leads me. I've
Uh-huh.
never been afraid, to walk around a corner, to discover something new. I get so excited. In fact, I've been so overstimulated most of my life. Recently, in the last 5 years, I'd say to my husband, I want to go somewhere where I don't want to know anything about anything. I want to go somewhere where I can just exist,
Yeah.
because I am often overstimulated by environments in a good way, and
Mhm.
people and things. And, uh, you know, I get very excited
Uh-huh.
and very interested in so many things.
Uh-huh.
But I've learned as I got older that I also have to rest. So
Yeah.
I try to go
Yes.
places now where I have no no need to look beyond the space that I'm occupying right
Right,
now
right. There's
for a
no,
minute,
you
for a
have to
hot
serve a
minute.
purpose. You can just be there. Yeah. And so what would that
Yeah.
place look like for you?
Just a place where um I don't know a lot of people. Nobody's
Mhm.
going to know me.
Yeah.
Um, I can just sort of rest. I don't have to think about things like, where am I going at this time or that time? What am I going to eat at this time? Or I don't want to have to think about, I just want to enjoy the space I'm in.
Uh-huh. Lovely, lovely. And so your line, is it just a straight line or does it meander?
Oh no,
Does
there's
it-
nothing straight about my line. I think it's just over and around and
Uh-huh.
wherever, it can look like mountains or roads or,
Yeah.
twists, but it's continual.
Uh-huh.
It has no
Lovely.
no end.
No end and lots of motion, sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Cool. So, Juanita, what advice do you have for other women who maybe want to access a little bit more of their inner wild self or become a little bit more of a renegade? How would you advise they start?
I always say, find the people who think like you. Find
Mhm,
the people who share similar or the same interests.
mhm,
Find people who surround yourself with people who will let you just be and go and do what you
uh-huh.
have to do.
Yeah.
There's a great um, meme that I've seen recently. It's been around for a few years, where it
Mhm.
says, always surround you with people who help straighten your crown without telling
Yeah.
other people that it was crooked.
Yeah, I love that
And
one
so,
too. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, we have to be able to fall down. We have to be able to get stalled for a while. We want that person who's right behind us, helping us move on and get to the next thing. And life is so short. We
Uh-huh.
can worry about what we didn't do, or we can just say, what are we going to do today?
Uh-huh. And what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What are we
That's
going to do
wonderful
today?
advice.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, very cool. So, Juanita, do you have a question for me?
Well, I'd be interested in knowing, um, because you've been doing these conversations with people. Um, do most people have like a moment in their life where they realize that they were that? Did they realize that what they were doing was a little different?
So, most of the people that I've interviewed say they've always been a renegade. Some of them say that they learned very early on to kind of suppress that. So that's why I ask about grade two, because I think that's a time before things are kind of squashed down. And then many of the people that I've interviewed say that it came kind of later in life when they started to be more outspoken. Now, some of them, of course, have been outspoken and fearless their whole life. But a lot of
Yeah.
us had kind of suppressed things a little bit past our early primary. So yeah, so I think for me, I've always known I was different and didn't quite fit in. When I was in high school,
I-
one of the one of the comments in my yearbook was "to the most different girl I know," which was sort of a badge of honor, but also a bit lonely and a bit hurtful to be not
yeah.
kind of one of the gangs. So, and how about you? Did you
Yeah.
always know you were a renegade, or?
No, I knew I wasn't part of the gang. I was never ever part of the gang. My gang
Yeah,
was me and my brother.
yeah. Oh,
Me and
nice.
my brother and my cousins, but
Uh-huh.
um my male cousins and a few females, but
Mhm.
I was never part of the clique or the group, the normal,
Yeah.
I was never that.
No.
Um, but I was always looking at how to create the spaces that I liked.
Yeah.
I was writing plays when I was 14, and
Awesome.
taking the community members, the kids down to the community center and paying rent at the
Yeah.
community center to have that group in there. I think it was 2 nights a week or something like that. I think it took a while for me to understand that I had that power, but I
Mhm.
was so lucky because to other people, this may sound very unlucky, uh, but I'm always a glass half full. So my father died when I was very young. My parents split
Mhm.
up when I was like 2. I
Mhm.
We moved in with my grandparents when I
Mhm.
was 2 years old. So I'm
Uh-huh.
2, my brother's 3, my sister's 5. And my grandmother was also a renegade.
Oh, nice.
Unlike my mother and my grandmother are complete opposites. My mother was very quiet and followed the rules. My
Uh-huh.
grandmother was throw those rules out. And I can remember one day, my grandfather was the head engineer for Canada Packers. And
Uh-huh.
my grandfather came home and he saw all these blankets over the chairs and over the table. And he said, my grandma's name was Mamie. Mamie, is that what you did all day? Play with those kids? And she said, yep, that's what I did.
Oh, what a
She used
wonderful
to dress up.
model.
Yeah, she used
Oh,
to dress up as different characters and come
oh,
to the
nice.
door to see what we would do. Like,
Oh,
I just grew up in a home that had so much fun.
yeah.
And I can remember my mother saying, "Oh my gosh, don't tell that story to the kids. Why are you telling that?" My grandmother would tell us all kinds of things
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see how we would react.
Uh-huh.
Would we be scared? Would we laugh? And she'd embellish it. The
Yeah.
more scared we got, the more she would embellish it, right?
That's wonderful. So you had a really good role model for being a renegade from the very
I
get-go.
did. I did.
Oh,
And,
that's
I
wonderful.
just looked at it, my grandmother came from a very large family.
Mhm.
And that family, was used to making their own fun. I
Mhm.
feel so bad today when I see young people come in, they go upstairs, they get on their computer,
Mhm.
and they're communicating in a different kind of thing that they call relationships.
Mhm.
Um, when that being in the same room with somebody
Yeah,
and playing a board game, even the conversations that happen
right.
over that board game, how you get to know and understand people,
Yeah.
um and you learn to appreciate so many other things about people that you will never ever learn by
Just
talking to people
online.
on computers, like you
I
just
know.
being
I
in
know.
their presence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Well, thank you so much for taking time to have this conversation with me. And I'm just thrilled to meet you. Do you have any big projects on in the pipeline right now that are coming?
Oh, we have so many. We, as my husband and I, as creators, we have a couple things in the cooking pot,
Right.
a couple things in development, um, and I also run the Africville Museum as the executive director,
Mm,
and we also have some things happening here, which I hope we'll be able to talk about by fall. But I'm very excited. Things are always growing around us,
Uh-huh.
and we try not to let things stand still too long.
That's wonderful. It's kind of like your line doesn't ever stand still and it's the rest of your life. That's wonderful.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. It's
You
been
got
such
it.
a pleasure to meet you, Juanita.
Thank you for including me in this, Meryl. I've really appreciated it. It's been great chatting with you.
I hope hearing Juanita's story has left you feeling inspired and ready to channel your own renegade spirit. If you need a little help getting started, please reach out to me. This episode was sponsored by the IWK Foundation. The foundation is a public, not-for-profit organization that raises funds to support the urgent priority needs of the IWK Health in Halifax, Nova Scotia. The IWK Foundation is the preeminent fundraising movement for children and women's healthcare in the Maritimes. We are powered by a legacy of best in-class care, diversity and inclusion, and the personal connections our donors have to the IWK and the region it calls home. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Renegade Conversations. It's also available where you get your podcasts as an audio version. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.